I have been a columnist I've been a writer seemingly all of my life. But for the last 9 years, I've been a local columnist. Many of you have read my columns in the newspaper, and of course, over the last 3 years or 2 years online with Gap News. And many of the columns that I have written, I'm very proud of it. I decided to take, and I've written hundreds, to take 32 of my best or most compelling articles and put it there. And the Spirit said to me, let's call it this one Overcomers, because a lot of the articles that I've written is about people who have overcome their particular adversities. There have been many who have actually called me, families wanting me to write something about deeds unrecognized and credit never given and heroes that were unsung. And so a lot of those articles actually moved me, touched me. And I put it in here, and it's entitled Overcomers, 32 of my best articles of people who faced their life adversities and overcame them. And so that's what this book is about, and the response has been very good. Now, there's a lot of the local heroes who are in the book, like Anthony Button. We'll talk about him in a minute, and Janine Cantine, and Dr. Evelyn Drayton, Reverend Dr. Evelyn Drayton, and so many others. But there's some national people in the book that have overcome adversities and what have you. You see, all of us are going to have hardships in life. But our ability to handle the hard places of life is a testament to our strength of character. You can get all A's in schools and still flunk life. And this is what's happening, because it is important to enjoy those times when life smiles upon us. But I think it's unrealistic to expect good times to last forever. But the question is, all of us are going to have hard times. All of us are going to have defeats. But where do we learn how to deal with it, Scott? I suggest to you that in school we learn about reading and writing, and those are vital keys for successful living. But where do we get the strength? Where do we learn how to deal with the loss of a job, the loss of a dead one, or as Langston Hughes to say, a dream deferred? Does it shrivel up and run, or does it shrivel up like a raisin in the sun? There is no course that we can take in school for Life 101. Most of the time, those of us who are dealing with adversity have to deal with it through trial by fire and the school of hard knocks. But success leaves clues. And some of the articles in here will help a lot of people get a clue, get an idea how to turn the corner, how to get up and say, I'm equal to this challenge. And I'm not going to let nobody hold me back. And so that's what this book is about.
So you said, and you're correct, you've written hundreds of columns over the years. How did you decide which 32 to put in the book?
Again, those that I think moved me, those that move me, I think will move other people. For instance, there was a young lady, story number one, who was born with a very rare eye disease. Her name is Kalea. And you would think with a child born with a very rare eye disease who is legally blind, the mother would be someone who's helping her, supporting her, trying to help her overcome her particular disabilities. But in this story, the mother did not stop physically abusing her. Why? Because the mother had a disability herself. She was bipolar, and she was kicked out of several schools. But I won't tell you the rest of the story, but she was able to get adopted by her relatives, and from there good things happened. You would think that Anthony Button, who was born and raised in Georgetown back in the 50s with cerebral palsy, and people do not know, because that was several generations ago, that during that time the doctors advised mothers or parents with children with cerebral palsy to be institutionalized in asylums or hospitals. But no, Anthony's parents decided they were going to homeschool him and raise him. And I was encouraged one day. I was in McDonald's here in Georgetown, and I saw him working hard. And I said, that's not menial work. All work is respectable if it's legal. while so many others are standing in front of McDonald's, Burger King, and every other with their hand out, telling, can you give me this? And I'm saying, here's this man's working. Dr. King had a saying, if it falls into your lot to be a street sweeper, be the best street sweeper that you can be. All right? And so I thought about that. Then I thought about Janine being burned in a house fire and having God knows how many skin grafts, how she overcame it, and Dr. Drayton and so many others. So that's how I picked it. I was moved by each of those articles.
But do you think you have enough left that moved you that you can do another book?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think of this book like a chicken soup book. Mm-hmm. Life, like I said, gives us ample opportunities for laughter and tears. And so the question becomes, do you think that you'll ever cry again? Do you think that something will ever hurt you again? Do you think that something will ever disappoint you again? Heck yes. Heck yes. And so I could continue to write. Why? Because this is the God-given talent that he's given me. And I love that people, see, I have this little saying, life is less about what you achieve, Scott, and more about what you overcome. Anybody could feel good about their lives when they're graduated, the kids are acting normal, the rent is paid, and the car note is paid. But what happens when those things are turned upside down? All right? And how do you handle that? Do you curse the darkness or you figure out how to light a candle? And like I said, this is not being taught. All of us are self-made people, but only the successful people admit it. Okay? Those who are unsuccessful, if you notice, always blame circumstances and people for their unsuccessful. And sometimes, not always, it's because they were casual about life. And if you're casual about life, you will end up one of life casualties. Life is hard and sometimes incredibly cruel, but we are equal to the challenge.
So tell us how people can get a copy of the book. I know you've got an event coming up, you said February 11th.
Yes, I have several events coming up, no less than 4 or 5. The first one, I believe, is Friday, the 10th, February the 10th, which is going to be at Bethel AME Church here in Georgetown. They're having something called A Taste of Georgetown with a new cookbook, but more importantly, or as importantly, they're having an author's night. And I'm just one of several authors who will be there with probably all 8 or 9 of my books, for those who would like to come get my latest book. And then
what time will that be that Friday night?
I think that's at 5 o'clock, between 5 and 7.
And that's at Bethel AME.
Bethel AME, right here on Broad Street in Georgetown.
Okay.
And that following week on the 17th, I believe it's on a Friday as well, I'm having my first individual book party at Ebony Hughes' place. It's called Gullah Tours, right there on King Street, right off of, King and in front of Front Street, with a Gullah Museum, close to a Gullah Museum. And so I'll be there selling my books. And then the new library in Sanpete, I think it's called Southern Georgetown Library. I'll be there on Wednesday, the 22nd. And there are other dates, one in Conway and others that are coming up. We often say, why did God allow this to happen to me? There's a book that I used to read many years ago called Why Bad Things Happen to Good People. Very famous book. And in the religious community, we say, God, why did you allow this to happen to me? But there's a quote in this book that I like. I think it's story number 3, which is called From Tragedy to Triumph. And Dr. Evelyn Drayton, when they asked her that question, she said, I almost fell for that why me question. But then I said to myself, why not me? I'm a reverend, I'm a Christian. Why can't I use this as a testament to see God's miracle in me? And let me tell you, she's had many miracles. Let me tell you, with that head-on collision, the other driver died. The doctors told her husband and her children that we don't think she's going to make it through the night. And there were several. In fact, they had to induce a coma. So what is my point? My point is that we're going to have adversities. You can't get out of life without it. And we sometimes pray for God for strength. We always say God works in mysterious ways. But then we don't understand what these mysterious ways are. We say, God, please give me strength. And God sends us difficulties, Scott, which makes us strong. We pray for wisdom, and he sends us problems, the solution of which develop wisdom. We ask him for favors and he gives us opportunities. We plead for courage and he sends dangers to overcome. We ask for prosperity. And you know what? He gives us brain and brawn to work. Much of what we will get out of life will come from the eating the bread of adversity and drinking the waters of affliction. But the genius is to see for those who overcome that you are equal to the challenge and that no night is so long, no pain is so heavy that weeping may endure for a night, but joy is coming in the morning. I need people to get this book and understand that you can overcome your adversities. And that's why, and I wanted to get away from history. Everybody wants to stereotype me. Oh, he writes good history. No, there are a lot of people who are dealing with issues right now. All right. And again, these are local and national. I got Aretha Franklin. I got Sam Cooke. I've got Don Gilliard. I've got Les Brown. I've got Reverend Richard Allen, who started the AME Church. I've got a lot of people who've overcome adversity in this book. And of course, the book, if you get it from me, is $20. If you buy it online, Amazon is $25. But I wish if you're dealing with some issues, you'd take a look at this.